this moment without having attained vipassana jnana. So there is more clear understanding even of the characteristic, which is that which experiences the nama and the rupa. But it's not familiar yet of whatever is now. Even it has been directly experienced, but so many things around. So the time after vipassana jnana, which has experienced the truth of the characteristic of nama and rupa, applies to whatever is there in daily life, little by little, so that it can be phala, anything as not self, little by little, so very little at a time.
So phala only refers to
after vipassana
jnana. Yes.
Because now there can be moment of satipatthana, right? But it's not the moment of experience the truth, vipassana jnana. So how can it understand what is there as clear as when it is after vipassana jnana?
And when it is after vipassana jnana as parinya, understanding other objects clearly, but not as vipassana jnana,
it is at moment when there is direct awareness.
When it is direct awareness.
But not the moment of vipassana jnana.
Can we say these are moments of satipatthana arising after vipassana jnana? Yes.
Otherwise, no way.
Yes. So it is the vipassana jnana, but it is the satipatthana, but to distinguish from moments of satipatthana before vipassana
not
jnana.
as clear as is the moments of vipassana jnana.
And it is those moments of satipatthana, it is those factors are phalas at that point, because it is
until it is phala, begin to be phala little by little.
Right, when we talk about vipassana jnana, we talk about principle vipassana jnana or the tender stages, because phala is only at the principle vipassana jnana, but parinya can be at the tender stage, the first.
There are
right.
3 stages of parinya.
Right, right. But the vipassana jnana, sometimes we talk about, it's referred to the principle after the tender stages, after the first 3 stages.
You talk about level of vipassana jnana, or what is
about vipassana jnana or about
vipassana jnana?
how many vipassana jnanas?
If we start from Namarupa Paricheta, that's 16 stages.
The first one.
Namarupa.
And then gone.
So when we talk about vipassana jnana, we mean that, right? We mean that's the.
Those cheetahs at that
but at that time, it's not phala yet, right?
You see what is meant by phala?
Power. Unshakable.
Experiencing the truth is more powerful than not experience vipassana jnana at all. Right? The moment of vipassana jnana is not the moment before that.
No.
So after experiencing the reality by way of vipassana jnana, panya is keener.
Right.
So from that experience, it can condition moment of satipatthana with a little more understanding of the truth, because all the truths, not all, the moment of vipassana jnana, whatever is there is so clear.
Right.
Few moments, very short moment too, like now. Not so long at all. And by then, there can be the application. Satipatthana arises by understanding at the level. So it experienced reality after that by a little more understanding from experiencing the truth at the level of nama rupa parichediyana.
So I understand that those moments after, from the vipassana jnana onwards, those factors are phalas beginning to develop more and more with more and more understanding, higher and higher levels. So why did you say, or where have you heard that they can only be classified as balas at higher stages of insight?
I remember I read it about when the 5 indriya become 5 power, that's at a stage of banga, when the danger of falling away is realized.
And now we listen to the words of the teaching.
Right.
At the beginning, it's
Mhm.
not right now, right? Right now, more understanding, even intellectually, than the first moment of hearing about Dhamma.
Mhm.
So after Vipassana Jnana, it's stronger than Satipatthana
Right.
before that. And understanding is begin to become clearer a little bit. So there are many moments of development of right understanding begin to be pala.
Mhm.
And then
Begin
from
to-
then on
right.
pala by different
Right.
degrees.
Stronger and
Right.
stronger. And Sundara's question, Ajahn, was because before the Vipassana Jnana, we refer to these factors as indriyas when it is direct
Because you see,
understanding.
after it's so familiar to
Yes.
the characteristic of Nama, any moment, it let go. So it's as natural as when it begins.
And his
But
question,
the understanding is more. It cannot be lost at all.
and I think his
Thank you.
question was after Vipassana Jnana, when the object appears more and more clearly, and we can refer
It
to
takes
these,
quite a long time.
these factors as balas. Can we, I think he was asking, can we also refer to them as indriyas?
It's not different from the moment when it's Indriya.
Right, just the degree of strength.
Right.
So indriyas before and then balas, yes.
Never
that's right.
different.
No, same reality,
Mhm.
just different strength of
Right.
understanding and awareness.
Otherwise cannot be higher states.
Anything further, Sundar?
The great
Just a minute.
inter-
Thanks for asking that, Sarah. I'm still not totally clear. Satindriya, my understanding presently is that there can be many different levels. You know, we certainly know that Bala is very strong. But my question is really, would Bala be always stronger than Indriya? Or that's still my question. It's still not clear in that respect. I don't know if does that make any sense, what I've just said?
His question is Bala always stronger than Indriya?
What about the understanding now and at the beginning and on and on and on and on and on and on, the same or different, but it is the same kind of reality.
Same reality,
Mhm.
same kind of understanding, but it develops on and on from Indriya, Bala.
Would you like to know what level of Bodhipakkaya Dhamma is now? See,
Well, no, it's not, as you know, Tanajan, that's not so important.
say any word, but about the understanding, nobody can change it.
Mhm, mhm. It just is what it is.
I suppose another way of asking Sundara's question would be these designations as Indriya and Bala, they indicate successively higher levels of development, but there is no there's no change in the reality as such. So they're convenient classifications to indicate the gradually increasing strength, but there's no implication for the reality itself.
Mhm. I still kind of have Tanajan Cup. I guess I'm hearing what you say in that is reasonably clear to me, and Jonathan has elaborated a little bit on that. When we read about the Indriya, we read about those. I'm just going to put my glasses on. Those 5 Indriya, Sadindriyam, Buddhindriyam, Satindriyam, Samadhindriyam, Panindriyam. They would all be applicable at whatever level, whether we're talking about the level of Satindriyam or if we're talking about Balindriyam, we're still, sorry, no, I'll take that back. So I didn't mean Balindriyam. I mean, to get that level of Bala, it still has to be that Indriya of Sati there. Do you hear what I'm saying? Perhaps I'm making a point that's not really necessary, but it seems to me that even when it's Bala, it's very strong. There still seems to me that there would be, there has to be Satindriyam there. There has to be, do you understand what I'm saying, Tanajanka? I can't hear anything. Oh.
Can it be Pala without letting go wrong understanding and ignorance and call it and think that it is Pala?
No,
no matter the beginning of being Pala, no need to know how far it goes.
That's true.
Enough or very little to be known that even Pala has to go on further than this.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's yeah, I understand, Tanajan. I hear what you're saying.
Or maybe there's a level when the Dhamma is at that level, the power is enough to start to shake the roots of akusala.
When one is under the water and just begin to pop up and see things around little by little. What about on the shore and rather more than that? What is there? More and more understanding of the truth of whatever is there. That's all. And when there is the understanding of what it is, the way it is, it lets go by itself. You need to think that this level of Pala will let go this and that and so on.
I think that's quite a good, I appreciate that analogy, Tanajan, about being underwater, because mostly we are underwater and we're not able to see the shore even. We don't have a glimpse of what's above the water. We're just submerged in ignorance most of the time. So that's a helpful analogy there about being under the ocean, the ogre of ignorance.
And why did Buddha talk about different degrees and the Bodhipakkhiyadhamma? Just to be the hint to understand that the truth now is not easy to understand, to penetrate, to realize the truth at all. Even it's there now as it is, but it is not known as it is. That's why it has to begin with intellectual understanding, and without the firm confidence of the intellectual understanding, there's no condition for Satipatthana or Satindriya become to be the great, to be able to be aware of an object right now. No selection, not at will, by conditions only. It's not known what would it be yet when it's future. But when it's there, Sati is strong enough to be Satindriya, to be directly aware of that object by nimitta, by way of nimitta. So now we live in the world of nimitta. But each word of the Buddha, by his enlightenment, he talked about everything at any level, until its moment of enlightenment. From now to there, how long? To let go the wishful thinking about attaining the truth so easily impossible.
Mm.
So we learn to understand the great wisdom of the Buddha. The truth of what is there appearing now. So very, very short, unknown all the time, because the other moment follows instantly all the time.
And I think the point you started off with, which some people may not have heard, was that now there is ignorance of what appears whilst trying to understand the details or work out the points, but there's ignorance of what is appearing right now at this moment.
Otherwise, loka
Loka is there, unknown,
Yeah.
yes.
lead to other things all the time,
Yes.
not now.
Ajahn, since we are just briefly talking about the stages of Vipassana, I have a question about Pariyatti guided by Pativedanta level. We talk about Nama is Nama, Rupa is Rupa. We talk about seeing is conditioned. What's the condition for seeing? And then we talk about reality arise and fall and the danger of the falling away. And even at the level of, at the intellectual level of Sankhara, Upekkha, all are the same. Kusala, akusala arise and pass away. But
Word, but not the
right.
nature of it.
Right, but the Pariyatti level is still guided by the level of Vipassana Jnana with the right direction. But my question is, we talk about all different stages, but we don't really talk about the third stage, comprehension by groups.
Pariyatti.
But yes, but even at Pariyatti level, we don't really talk about that by group.
It can be directly experienced by stage. Because many people think that they don't understand the intellectual level of what is there. It's not a table or anything, and the truth is hidden all the time. They have no idea. They are told to do. So Buddha taught about the different levels of understanding.
Yes, and because in the sutta, we see many times Buddha mentioned about past, future, present, and inferior, superior, internal, external. He talked about comprehension by groups so many times. And also that's not ready to directly experience yet, but we don't know the anachai also.
But we know about the past, the present, and the future.
So yeah, so the question actually related to this is when we talk about past,
Okay.
we're talking about
Just a moment
Sanyama.
ago, it's a past.
Just a moment ago, not like reflection of some sense feeling yesterday. Will that be a past?
It's included.
It's included.
The past from last moment to the moment of yesterday and years ago, the past, that which is gone.
Okay, so for example, seeing when you were asking Carmen, don't look at me. So that seeing also include internal, external.
That's why Buddha taught about nimitta, to understand that even we take for a moment, it's not a moment at all. A split seconds of moment.
What do you mean by seeing it, internal, external?
Because when the comprehension by group in the Visuddhimagga, it's basically referred to the 11 group, the past, future, now, and the internal, external, and far, near, extra.
What is external now and what is internal now? See, just talk about the truth, not to just pass without any
Destroyed the other.
Sorry. Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
No, I was walking past. Listen.
Now you have to go to the bathroom.
We're having a short break. Ajahn needed to break for a minute. So perhaps we'll pause here and come back when Ajahn returns.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Question is related to the reflection of the teaching. Because we always talk about what condition that we to arrive. It's not about thinking about the reality.
I've just had a bit of a pause, so you can take that with you then. You know,
we're good.
good on you. I'll just change. It's only 5 minutes. I'll just change it over when it's ready.
No, I'll be back for that.
Good on you.
I've just got off the phone talking to my son. He's in Bali.
I see.
Sundara, we can hear you. Do you mind turning your speaker off?
I think we should sort of mute everything for a while.
Yeah, mute everything. Okay.
So those of us who aren't there can have a little chat.
Yes. Hello, Anne. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Azita. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah. Doing okay.
Good, good.
So I'm really feeling kind of left out, but not, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly
Not
what
being,
you
yeah,
mean.
I thought you might. Yeah. You were going to go, weren't you?
I was, and it just became clear that for me it was not a good idea given some medical stuff that's hanging in the background and the
Right.
the COVID risks came in there too. I don't know anybody who's flown long distance yet who hasn't come down with COVID. And I just thought, with all these other things lingering and the possibility of being in Bangkok, needing to isolate from other, it just added up to too many moving parts too many moving parts as one person described it. But yeah, the medical stuff definitely hangs in the background and
Right. Yeah.
deal with it. How about you? Are your issues settling, resolved?
No, I won't go. I'll email you. It's
Okay,
really
no,
private,
I wasn't
so-
asking for
but-
details now, but yeah,
I don't think I'll be traveling this year. And
okay.
also, it seems such a hassle. I mean, so many flights being
yes.
cancelled, and it's always been so easy for me to get out of here, go to Bangkok, but it's not like that anymore.
Oh,
Flights being cancelled, luggage is being lost, and I went, and also, I need some surgery, so I'm just going to sit here. Look, aren't we lucky with having Zoom?
oh, it's wonderful. The
Oh my
past 2
God.
years of Zoom have been fabulous. And now it's great.
It's
I love
really
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was particularly looking forward to the bonsai setting and then these discussions because I knew it would be few people and the like. So, but I feel like we're being included very nicely.
Yes. Well, I feel
And
that this morning.
it makes it all easier.
It does. And I was, I went for a walk this morning and I was feeling a bit down. And I thought, okay, I feel down. That's what's real at the moment. Forget about not being able to go anywhere. You're feeling low, accept it. So, I think I've probably learnt more or taken in more in these Zoom discussions than I have in all those years I've been going there.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
Yeah, we've had so much face-to-face, so to speak.
Yes, the discussions have been wonderful all the way through. And I think
Excellent,
these
yeah.
are particularly good. I don't know. And I love seeing Ajahn.
Yes, same here. Yeah.
Having her on the screen and watching her, I find I'm able to focus better, focus more, stay with it.
I think is Sarah trying to say something? Yes, Azita, Vincent, just a moment. We're waiting for a Jan, but we're going to carry on the discussion. She'd like us to carry on in the meantime.
Okay,
So
thank
Good.
you. Okay,
so-
and I'll email you.
Great.
Vin-
Nice to talk to you.
We've started now. Vincent, would you like to bring up your point?
Okay. Maybe let me make sure my question is clear, because of course I'm talking about the pariyati level guided by vipassana jnana level. For example, the first stage of vipassana jnana is nama is nama, rupa is rupa. So that sanya start to become anatta sanya. So we talk about different stages. Like next stage is by condition. So we talk about what's the condition for seeing. And then the second stage of vipassana jnana is about condition, about a pachaya, right? So we talk about first stage, second stage, and then the third stage is comprehension by group. And the first three stages are called tender stage, tender vipassana jnana. And the reason I raise this question is in the Visuddhimagga, the fourth stage start to be very significant principle.
Let's stop with the third stage. We're talking about the comprehension
By
by
group,
groups. Yes. So when you were saying before that what you read about comprehension of groups is about past, future, present, and so on, but this is not what I understand by comprehension by groups. The realities that are referred to, such as the rupas that arise, because you mentioned we've never discussed it, but we have, in other words. For example, when we talk about the rupas that arise together in a kalapa, in a group, each reality can be past, future, present, and so on, but the nature of the reality is exactly the same, far, near, gross, subtle, but exactly the same. So the visible object now cannot arise alone. It has to be conditioned by the four primary rupas.
Yes.
And there have to be at least three other rupas arising in the groups. Yesterday, we talked about the hardness and how the hardness experienced, for example, through the body sense can be conditioned for extreme painful feelings. So the hardness is different depending on the other primary rupas that condition it at that moment. So when we're talking about the understanding of realities arising in a group, like the rupas, this is what we're referring to. Or we can also refer to the chaitasikas arising together, like the passa cannot arise alone. It has to be arise with the other chaitasikas.
But why then would the comprehension by groups so specifically important to be one of the stages? And in the Visuddhimagga, it's mentioned this stage is necessary to condition the next stage principle of vipassana jnana. When arise and fall start to realize the arise and fall. I mean, it's indicate before that principle of vipassana jnana could start, the understanding of the different grouping seems to be the condition for it.
So first we have to understand what is the understanding of realities arising in a group, because from what you said before, it was not anything about the rupas, for example, arising together in a group, because you were just talking about past and future. So there has to be the consideration of what is meant first, otherwise it cannot, the significance cannot be realized.
But that's the question, because we don't really talk that much about past and the future and the internal, external.
Yes, can I just clarify here that when understanding of say, realities is developed, there is a stage where it becomes apparent that what is true for the present moment is also true for all past moments and all future moments. That's all. It's not that there are different objects to be understood. It's always the present reality that's
right,
understood. But the level of understanding is such that what is understood is universal. That's all. As to time and place and everything. And one other comment to make generally on the way you brought this up, we don't talk about the different vipassana jnanas. I mean, normally we talk because it's not relevant to the understanding of the present moment as such. So when we talk about the present moment, we do talk about conditions, which you relate to the second vipassana jnana. That's okay, but it's not as though we are choosing to talk about.
No, I didn't
things,
mean that. I understand what you mean. But understand this moment, the reality at this moment, we understand the other moment. But understanding the reality, we start to realize internal, external, near, far, inferior, superior.
But it takes a lot of time. That's an advanced level of understanding.
Yeah. I see what you mean. But the question is, why is that so important to be one stage of Vipassana jnana? Why is the comprehension by group? Since it's already included in the understanding of Nama is Nama.
What
Rupa is
groups are you
Rupa.
referring to exactly? When you say groups, because Sarah has mentioned
the 11 group.
The way
So
you talk about
what's your
groups is
understanding
quite
of
different.
groups in this context? What's an example of a group?
The past, future, present, internal, external.
Why is that a group?
That's what in the sutta, comprehension by group.
Then
Well,
I'm not sure if that's the
visible object could be
correct
internal or external to be understood, but the characteristic is the same. So that's the key, is the characteristic of the reality.
Correct.
But the question is, why the by group so significant to be a stage of Vipassana jnana?
When we talk about hardness, like we talked about hardness yesterday, different kinds of hardness, different degrees of hardness, slight hardness, very strong hardness, hardness that was experienced today, hardness experienced in the Buddha's time, hardness, future, any hardness is just hardness. And this is the nature of hardness, and it's khandha that arises and falls away. So any khandha, no matter past, future, gross, subtle, far, near, any conditioned reality is khandha that arises and falls away. But we don't talk about the past, future, present hardness as groups. This isn't what is meant by at the third stage of Vipassana jnana, by groups.
Okay. My understanding is because this is a stage to pass through. This is a stage to pass through to the next level.
Well, each level is a stage to pass through to the next one, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
Each level of Vipassana jnana.
So it's important enough to be a stage. It's important enough to be a stage. To me, that means the absolute truth start to be more firm. There's really no internal, external. That's the same. Really no past, future, and present. That's the same.
It just means that this level of understanding occurs before the next one.
Yeah,
that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in the progression of understanding, this comes before the next one. It comes after the one before and comes before the next one.
Let me try to rephrase the question. What's the significance of this comprehension by group to be specifically out there before the principle Vipassana jnana?
It's a level of understanding.
Let's also add some comments.
I don't quite understand what you mean. The question, please.
The first stage obviously is so important. Nama is Nama.
Not yet. Just talk about now. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of the first stage of Vipassana jnana. Because what are in the world, no matter what were, realities, Dhamma, right? And there are many different Dhammas that can be classified into two categories. One is that which arises by conditions, but cannot experience an object. Is there any understanding of that reality right now? Or my arm, my leg, table and chair?
intellectual knowledge.
That's why we have to understand what we are talking about. What is that which is not known as it is? But ignorance, not understanding the truth, and attachment, is there something when it's unknown, as it's only there, only shortly arises and falls away. So it's something there to be attached. So there is ignorance and attachment, the whole world, not just here, anywhere, right? When it's there, when it's conditioned to be ignorant about that which appears. So this is no one, the truth that no one knows unless the Buddha after his enlightenment. So he talked about the absolute of what is there is not permanent at all. It cannot be taken for something permanent. It's only different realities arising by conditions and then falls away instantly, unknown, because of no understanding of the truth of what is there. So how can the arising of each different one can be known? So now we begin to understand no one, no me, no one, but there are different realities, okay? And what can appear is when it's the object of that which experiences it through different doorways. The world of sight now, no smell, no sound, different words, just one word at a time. So is there anyone or anything there? This world now, and just a moment ago, and the next moment, exactly the same, the world of seeing. To begin to understand from the very beginning, to have firm confidence of the truth, what Buddha enlightened is the truth of whatever arises and falls away, that it's not there anymore. How can it be taken for things and people? So now we are talking about this because it's not moment of directly experiencing the truth, but the truth is the truth. So it can be directly experienced when there is enough understanding of the nature of it, that this one is not the other one. This one arises and falls away one by one, by nimitta, to understand little by little about the truth of this moment, of everything, from moment to moment. And this is not vipassana jnana, and it's not the patipati. It's only just begin to hear the truth, to understand truly right now, no me, no one, only a moment of what is there experienced by that reality which arises to experience. Learn to let go the idea of self, strongly accumulated, so that it's not easy to eradicate or to eliminate or to have less when there's no understanding at all, moments to moments now. How many moments are there? Added more ignorance and attachment. That's why this is a very level understanding of intellectually about what is there now. But it's not yet appear as it is. It can appear only to panya, or right understanding, which knows what is what. Otherwise, how can there be this one arises and falls away and the other one is not this one? Firm enough? Enough? Or enough? Who knows? No one can decide. But what about the direct awareness with understanding of that which we have talked about? The word of sight, the word of sound, smell, taste, touch. Now, very naturally, it's gone. But there can be the understanding of the impermanence of whatever is there, which has been taken for so permanent before. And this is not vipassana jnana. It's not pativeda. It's not patipati. It's only a little understanding of the truth of what is there. So the question is about just one reality at a time, so we can understand better, clearer. Inside or outside, it doesn't matter. But what are we going to say to understand more? Just about one reality, not to underestimate the subtlety of reality. All reality, even hardness now, arises and falls away. No one there and no one here at moment when hardness appears. Is this true? Just enroot the firm confidence of the truth. Otherwise, it cannot be directly experienced. So we'll talk about what? One reality.
This is not going to be one reality because it's by group.
Yes, but
We-
which one we will talk about?
Okay, we can say seeing, right?
Seeing now.
Yeah.
Only seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Is seeing moment of knowing what is there as something?
Not some. What does something mean? It's not a thing, right?
So seeing sees what?
Visible object that which can be seen only
All around at once, or just very tiny one,
just one at
which
a
can
time.
impinge on the eye base and then gone.
Yeah, only tiny one.
So seeing cannot be hearing, thinking at all.
No.
And the Buddha enlightened the truth that seeing arises only one moment in
Right.
the process of seeing
Mhm.
or either experiencing object. That's why we have no idea that there must be a moment of citta before seeing at all.
Mhm.
So what is citta? That which arises to be the chief of experiencing an object.
Mhm.
Why do we use the word chief? Because there must be other mental realities,
Mhm.
or we can say nama, or that which experiences the object. But there are many kinds, and this one is the chief of experiencing the object. It does not like, it doesn't hate
Right.
or fear anything. It just experiences
Right.
the object so clear. Nothing can experience the object as clear as seeing only.
Mhm.
But now, how many moments of seeing?
Countless.
How many moment processes?
Countless.
And how many
Right.
citta before seeing and after seeing?
Countless. Right.
And this is the world.
Mhm.
So very deeply
Mhm.
that it arises and falls. No one knows it's true. And it doesn't have the idea for someone to know it. It
No.
just arises to see.
Right.
So at any moment of seeing, here or over there, inside or outside.
Right. Or past or future.
Mhm.
Right.
And at moment of experiencing it,
Mhm.
just the understanding of the truth of that, no idea about inside or outside.
Right. Right. No idea of where.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because the world and
That's the
it
only.
sees
Mhm.
only that which is there. So it means that there's no flower, no people, no house, no sun or moon at all.
Right.
Imagine the moment of clear, directly experience the object one at a time,
Mhm.
but by nimitta.
Right.
So no doubt about where are we now, fantasy world,
Mhm.
dream world,
Mhm.
nothing. But reality keeps on arising and falling with non-stop as long as there are conditions for it to arise.
Mhm.
There are so many conditions that we can talk about just one condition at a time. Without seeing as condition, there cannot be, without the eye base,
Right.
there cannot be seen.
Yep.
Without that, which is the only reality which can impinge on the eye base, there cannot be what appears, because what appears must impinge on the eye base for
Mhm.
seeing to see
Mhm.
as nimitta, because of the rapidity of succession of the arising and falling of each moment.
Mhm.
And seeing is not me or I at all, or anyone. And just a moment ago, it's gone, never to return.
Right.
More confidence of
Yes.
seeing.
Yes.
It's not hearing. It's not thinking.
No.
And is Pariyati guided by stages of insight, or are stages of insight guided by pariyatti? Because if the pariyatti hasn't been developed and isn't firm, whatever we read or hear about stages of an insight won't make any sense at all. So the pariyatti has to develop to condition the direct understanding, which leads to the higher understanding.
Right, but
rather
we
than
are
the other
talking
way
about seeing is seeing, seeing is not visible object. That's pariyatti level guided by the first level of vipassana jnana, right? So because there's a realization, because someone realized, Buddha realized, nama is nama, rupa is rupa. So we are guided by that truth at the intellectual level. Isn't that? That's what I mean.
But still, it's, for example, someone who starts to study the Dhamma and they read about the different vipassana jnanas, all completely wrongly understood because the pariyatti hasn't been developed. So it's the firm development of the pariyatti which leads to the understanding of what dhammas are, which conditions the direct understanding, and then it's understood what is meant by satipatthana, and that understanding develops to condition first vipassana jnana, and then it's very clearly understood exactly
Right.
what is the distinction between nama and rupa, and the various objects are clearly understood.
Yeah.
So those in the Buddha's time, they had never read or heard details about the different vipassana jnanas, but as the understanding developed, those stages were realized.
Right.
Naturally.
It has to be understanding, and there are many different levels of understanding. And but what I'm saying is just for intellectual level. For example, we read about anicca, but we don't realize anicca of realities. But we still talk about that because we are guided by that anicca. But anyway, the question is.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
This point is not clear yet.
Understanding in okay. Reflect wisely of the Dhamma.
So you said it's panya, right?
It has to be panya.
So it's not just the word,
Right.
it's the understanding of each word of truth.
Right.
That is pariyatti.
Yeah.
It's not just the word in the book and we read it.
No, not logically
but it is
understand, right?
Understanding.
Yeah.
The foundation of understanding the truth.
Right. Like the seeing is different
For
from
example,
moment ago.
talking about seeing,
Yeah.
and there is the understanding of seeing. The understanding is at level of pariyatti, understanding the word about the truth.
Right.
But it has to be understanding that level, which is not the level of the regular experience of truth.
No. Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
without pariyatti, can there be more understanding to experience the truth?
Without pariyatti, but that's the process, right? But this process is
So without understanding the truth right now, pariyatti, just talking about is to consider the understanding at level of understanding right now as no one. But it's not the direct awareness with direct understanding of seeing itself at all.
Right. Right.
And this is a difference between pariyatti and patipatti.
Right.
But without pariyatti, can there be patipatti?
No. It has to be from a process from lower stage gradually grow.
And what is pativeda?
When it's start to become clear, when the whole start to break, the already said Titi Visuddhi start. The
How
vipassana
clear?
jnana.
How clear?
The rest of the world disappear.
This moment is not clear.
No.
And at moment of beginning to be aware of our reality right now, is it clear?
No, not as clear.
It's clear as is known that it's not only pariyatti.
Right.
Stage by stage.
Yes. Yes. But okay.
Your question is, well, you are suggesting in effect that there should be more discussion about past and future realities as well as present ones.
It's more why we don't really discuss that. That doesn't mean we should. I just wonder why we don't really discuss that.
Well, why would we want to discuss it?
Because that's one of the stage of the
But we're not
Vipassana.
discussing the stages of Vipassana Jnana. We're discussing what is useful to know for the development of understanding at the present moment.
Right. So that's why when we also discuss seeing is not visible object, which is the first stage.
No, there's no need to relate that to the first stage of Vipassana Jnana.
No
Seeing-
need, right?
No need.
Right.
No. Where does this idea of relating, when we say every time we think of seeing is not visible object, why should that be related to the first Vipassana Jnana? That is a truth that applies to the present moment now.
Right.
And to try and relate it to a higher level of understanding which has not yet been attained,
True, but we
doesn't
still
seem to be necessary.
well, I agree with you, but still we talk about anicca, right? Which we don't attain yet.
About anicca, how all realities are anicca and whatever arises falls away. Is it pariyatti?
It can be a condition for pariyatti, right?
What is the condition for pariyatti?
To reflect the Dhamma now, is it true it's anicca, or is it true it's not controllable for anatta?
For example, we can read lots of suttas about anicca, and anyone can talk about anicca or dukkha. But if there is no understanding of seeing right now, no understanding of what is seen now, can anything be understood about anicca or about dukkha? This is Ajahn's point. So
Right.
it has to
And
come back
no
to
question about all
right.
this important, no question. Yeah, sure. It's the reality now here that's really mattered.
I
That's
think
that's the object for
Yeah.
panya to grow.
if you think that there should be discussion about past realities and future realities,
No,
then
I
you can
didn't
say
mean we
so,
should.
but
The question is
then
why we
there's no
did that.
question. No, well, the question doesn't arise. Why does the question arise in the first place?
Okay, then
We just talk about what is helpful or the beginning level of development of understanding.
well, if given that context, then this question is doesn't matter at all. If just focused on the beginners, right?
It's focused on what is
Real
relevant
now,
and
right.
useful to know. I mean,
Right.
sometimes we do talk about more advanced levels, like we talked about the Indriyas earlier and so forth.
Right.
So if you want to talk about past and future,
Okay.
then you can ask the question, but somehow it doesn't come up. And so I'm a little bit flummoxed as to why you see it as something that needs to be explained, why we don't discuss it.
Okay. Well, it follows from the Indriya and Bala distinction. Because why at some level we start to call that Bala, not Indriya, because it starts to share the root of the Akusala Dhamma.
And ask
No.
about that too, shifting the roots.
Shaking.
Yeah,
shake
that's from the
root
text,
of
is it?
Akusala, right. And at that level, it starts to call Bala, right?
What does it mean, shaking the roots?
For that time, that detachment start to be learn to let go, as Ajahn say, learn to let go. That's the point when let go start to really be really effective in a way. Before that, just minor.
Perhaps what I understood by that shaking the roots would be potentially, our ignorance is being understood more clearly. So the
danger
implication.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, we don't talk about shaking the roots particularly either, do we?
No, I know that, but I'm
No,
No, but I'm just trying to- I'm just trying to understand.
My question is follow the Bala
I'm
discussion.
trying to understand Vince's point of view, because I think he's trying to express something that. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand Vince's. Sorry, Ajahn, you go. Please go ahead.
And better more about seeing, because there is seeing right now. So we forget the word priyati, patipati, and pativeda. Just understanding, how much understanding now about seeing right now to be truthful. There is seeing, and we learn to pay attention on seeing to understand the truth of it. As Buddha had enlightened, a reality arises and see at moment of seeing, right? Can you stop whatever now arises already? It has arisen already. Can you stop its arising before it arises? Impossible. That's why whatever appears now must be conditioned to arise to be only that. And there are two kinds of reality which no one knows, and take it for I and thing and animal and whatever. But we are talking about what's taken for I, the whole body, not enough. The eyes, the ears, tongue, and so on are there, right? Or mind all the time. My seeing right now. But in truth, what is seeing? And right understanding of seeing, not the moment of directly experiencing the truth of it, which not other reality, only that which sees in that very moment. And can there be other thing in the moment, at the moment of seeing, together with seeing, like hearing and thinking? Impossible. That's why no one knows. So we have to understand each one as it is to break up all the idea of I, which has been so strong, accumulated. So now it's not my seeing, it's not my eye. What are they? Seeing is not the eye. Who knows at this moment? And that which is seen is not seeing. Just learn about the truth of life in a moment, from birth to death. But when it's not the moment of directly experience the truth of seeing as nothing with it at all, only that which sees appears, so there can be clearer understanding of seeing. But the first vipassana jnana, we can say what is meant by the word vipassana and jnana. Jnana is right understanding, which understand the truth. So clear vipassana, not just talking about it, but now that moment, the realization of the truth, no other thing else at all, only that which sees and that which is seen, nama and rupa. Is it right now? Impossible. So many people, but by then, no one at all, as it's true. No thing and no one. It's only the moment of that which arises and see. No doubt about the reality, which has no shape and form, but it sees. But the arising and falling way cannot be directly known in the very beginning, because layers and layers, ignorance and attachment are there, adding up all the time. And we don't have to say that it is parayati, but how to know the difference between this level of right understanding and the other level. That's why we use the term parayati. It has to be understanding. Each word of the teachings are true, unshakable, enough of different stages. From now on, when you hear someone say that my seeing or I see, they can say that because not the other seeing, but it doesn't belong to anyone at all. So the understanding is there, knows, while the other might not know the truth because not hearing anything about it. But it is the moment that you know, seeing is seeing. but not the moment of experiencing it directly, little by little, before it can appear as vipassana jnana. And if we want the word to differentiate the stages of understanding, we can use this as intellectual understanding. Intellectual understanding. And when it's directly understanding with direct awareness, it's not intellectually understanding. It is pati. Pati, particular object, only one. Pati is to attain or to reach the truth of that object, not by eye or anyone, but sati or satindriya, as we talked a moment ago, is there with right understanding. Panjinsi, but not as the Sri Panya at level of Vipassana Jnana. But it is Panjinsi, not only hearing about it, but it's there beginning to develop the understanding of the truth. But the truth cannot appear just easily as it is. It takes time to consider it, to think about it, to know the difference between just think about it and moment when right understanding with awareness is there. But it's not the word. For example, we use the term direct awareness and direct understanding. Why it's not directed? Because it's not on that object at this very moment. And even it's there, in the beginning, it's not clear. It takes quite a long time to develop to be the moment of enlightenment, this first stage of Vipassana Jnana, which means only Nama, only one, Rupa, only one, appear, no world, Anatta, and Anicca, because there is other reality appearing too, not just one reality, seeing or the object which is seen, but other as much, as many, as conditions different for each one. And that cannot be the beginning right now. It's quite different. So this is the way leading to the moment of understanding clear and more directly.
And when we're talking about understanding which develops and Vipassana Jnana, it's from the beginning to the end, it's always the understanding of the reality that appears now, the nimitta of the reality. So whatever stage of insight we're talking about, whatever stage of Vipassana Jnana, it's not the past or future object, it's always the nimitta of the present reality. And when that panya develops stronger and stronger, it understands how each reality has to be conditioned. No self there, no one who can do anything. And it understands deeper and deeper to understand the arising and falling away of seeing now, of hardness now, the nimitta of the present reality appearing. So it's always the present object. And when the understanding develops more and more clearly of different objects in rapid succession, because there is the direct understanding of the rising and falling away, then it begins to understand how each rupa has to arise in a group, because the different realities are directly understood as arising and falling away in succession, and how chitta cannot arise without the cetasikas supporting it. So this is the direct Vipassana Jnana of dhammas arising together. But if there is no understanding now of seeing or a reality, and how it's always the present object, no matter what we read, it's always back to now and the seeing now. But as Jonathan explained, when there is the understanding of seeing, no doubt that any seeing that ever occurred or any seeing that will ever occur it has to be the same nature, the same Dhamma, because it cannot be changed. It cannot be different at all.
When the Dhamma appear or to Vanya, no question about that. Dhamma has to be now. There's no question about that. It has to be now. And that's exactly why in so many sutta, what's the significance Buddha mentioned about the by group? Many
This is
sutta.
what I just
Yeah,
mentioned.
I know that's what you explained. Yeah.
Yes.
That unless that's the truth, then what is known about what is now doesn't count, does it?
Yeah, that's what I
It's,
said.
so, yeah,
yeah.
that's
Right.
you have to know that what is being understood now
When the
applies
now is
in
expanded,
the past and the future also.
when the now and here is expanded to anytime, anywhere. The reality,
wouldn't put it.
yeah.
I wouldn't say the now is being expanded. I
To
would say
future
that
and
the
past is also true.
understanding that what applies now also applied in the past
Right.
and will apply in the future.
That's the significance of it.
Yeah,
Right? Yes,
yeah.
That's
But when
Yeah.
we're talking about
But
samasana
that-
jnana, the third stage of insight, the point is to the understanding of realities that arise together. It's not, and this is the same anytime, past, future, anytime. Seeing can never arise alone. Vedana can never arise alone. So there is the comprehension directly of the realities arising together. Hardness is always conditioned
the
by
second
the,
stage, right?
Sorry?
That's the second stage.
no, samasana jnana, understanding of realities arising together in groups. Yeah.
And can I also point out that we often say that the truths taught by the Buddha are relevant today.
Yeah.
So why isn't that saying the same thing as what applies now are also applied at the time of the Buddha? So that's been answered in response to your comment that we don't talk about this aspect of understanding, but we do, because we say, we're always saying that they are universal truths that hold for any time, any place.
Okay, so the question should be, what's the significance of the discussion of the groups?
Well, the
Yeah,
significance
just
is what we
explain,
just
right?
said,
Yeah,
that
yeah, right.
if I understand something, but it only applies to this moment and doesn't apply
Right.
in the past or future, then it's of
Yes, that's
limited
Right.
relevance,
Right.
isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the
This, I
significance.
mean, this is so significant that the Buddha mentioned in so many suttas.
Yeah, right. So what are you trying to say?
Just to discuss the significance of it. Right?
Well, we do from time to time, as I say, because we make the point that the truths that were realized by the Buddha are universal truths.
Mhm. Right.
So that's saying the same thing, isn't it?
In a general level, high level.
Right. But the actual realization or direct understanding of what you are just raising doesn't come until a much later stage.
Right.
So,
Like,
well, a lot of what we say doesn't, but yeah. But what is going to be understood first, anicca, or the fact
Dhamma.
that the fact that the conditioned nature of realities applies
characteristic
equally in the
first.
past as in the future.
no understanding of seeing now. There can't be the understanding of the rising and falling away. There can't be any comprehension of what is meant by samasana jnana.
Right.
Because
Samasana before arise and fall.
There has to be the understanding of the arising and falling away of realities. Otherwise, there cannot be any understanding of what is really meant by the understanding of realities arising together in groups. So
I'm not
it's
sure about
nothing
this
to
one.
do with past and future. And I know, so that's why whatever we read will be misunderstood if the foundation is not firm. And this is why we don't talk about it so much, because what's the point of talking about the direct understanding of the rising and falling away of realities if the realities themselves are not understood.
Yeah, characteristic of each Dhamma first, right?
It seems that we try to get ahead of ourselves and ahead of the basics, which if there's no understanding at a pariyati level of what is so basic, which is what is happening now, which is difficult enough that it seems to me it becomes an intellectual exercise trying to work out in our minds why something is included at a certain stage of vipassana jnana, other than it's a stage that has to be gone through. And if there's confidence in the truth of now, there will be more and more confidence in looking at considering what may come in the future, at future stages. But without, as Sarah and Ajahn have said, and Jonathan, without the understanding of now and what that involves, what is now, it's really, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but it's sort of beyond the scope of what one needs to know now to try to pinpoint why and how down the road.
And I think we can also say that we actually assume that what is being understood now applies to the past and the future. And perhaps we shouldn't, because that aspect of understanding doesn't become directly known until so much later. But I'm not sure that that there's any, although it's a significant point, I don't see the particular benefit in bringing it into the discussion more than it is already, which is the question you're raising, isn't it?
Right, that's mentioned that basically.
But we assume it's correct.
Right.
Whereas perhaps we should say we shouldn't assume it's correct, because that's an assumption rather than something that's directly known.
It's something that can't be known directly now, but I think knowing what can be known, at least intellectually, and the more confidence one has in the truth of that, the more confidence one can have going on. But there are things we just can't know directly or very clearly now about why certain things are included at various stages.
I think it would be useful next time if you bring a sutta that or text that you're referring to along, because I think some misunderstanding about what is meant to.
Okay. Do you want to talk about a face and a door?
Just before we get to Jagrit, Tin had what he said was a basic question. Let's have a basic question as first of all.
So the basic question is about accumulation. I feel that I don't quite understand that yet, like what exactly is being accumulated, and like why is it anatta? Because I still understand that I accumulate, he accumulate, that kind of tendency to form that kind of karma, but I don't understand why it's anatta yet. Can you please explain?
You've been listening several days very patiently. Sometimes the topics have been very difficult, but even so, there is the interest to hear more. And I think there is a little more understanding about the nature of dharmas. Is that right? And would you say that each time you listen, there's just a little bit more understanding, a little bit more considering about dharmas?
Yes.
And would you say there's a little more considering that those dharmas that you're hearing about are anatta, no one there at all?
Yes.
So can we say that that understanding or that wise considering is accumulating little by little?
The understanding is being accumulated.
Is
Yeah.
I'm asking you, is it accumulating a little bit?
I-
So each time you listen, each time you reflect, each time you have a discussion at home, a little more considering, a little more understanding, but it's like the drops of salt in the ocean. So very little each one, but a little more, a little more. So it is accumulating little by little. And is there any you or anyone that can make it accumulate or can make it accumulate faster or can stop it from accumulating when listening now?
If I honestly answer this, because I don't have enough understanding, I still think that I can slow down the process of understanding or make it faster. But in truth, like I heard you guys say that no one can control like all the things because there's no one.
What about seeing now, right now? Can you stop seeing?
No,
Can you stop hearing now?
no, not
Can you stop thinking even for a moment?
no. Mm,
So can you change anything that has been conditioned to arise now?
No,
If there's doubt, for example, when listening or not understanding, can you stop the doubt?
no.
No,
there's
because if the
no-
conditions for doubt arises, if it's feeling it hot and there's a bit of aversion, can you stop having aversion
No,
when it's hot? No, because that aversion has accumulated and it arises when there are conditions because of that tendency, as you
Tendency.
mentioned yesterday, that habit
Right.
to have aversion when a bit too hot or when bitten by the insect, for example.
Mm,
So no one can stop it. No one can change what has arisen now. If we speak conventionally, we say, oh, I can change my lunch order and I can change the route I go by car. But when we talk about this moment and the reality arising now, seeing now, hearing now, kindness now, doubt now, it cannot be changed or stopped because it arises by different conditions and no one there to do anything at all. However much searching there is, a you or me can never be found in reality. Only conventionally we can say this is you and this is me and we all understand, but at moments of seeing, no you or me, moments of hearing, no you or me, moments of touching, no you or me, moments of thinking, yes, just an idea that I am here and I am seeing, but it's just an idea, not the absolute reality.
like like even the choice of having a different route is already been conditioned, right?
Even
Like,
the
yeah,
thinking at that
thinking of
moment,
that.
thinking, oh, I'll go left instead of right. Why is there that thinking at that moment to consider going this way and not that way? Because each moment of thinking has been conditioned by the memory we talked about yesterday, the sanya, conditioned by previous moments of thinking about the way to go. So each moment of thinking, like now, thinking about the meaning of what is being said, thinking about the understanding of seeing, each moment of thinking is conditioned and has been accumulated as there is that tendency. Like now, one may think about the colors of the houses across the river. One may think about the lotuses in the water. One may think about taking a photo all depending on the accumulation of different tendencies and habits. No one there, no one can change it, no one can decide what to think about next.
So this is what is being accumulated is different kind of condition, right? Like
What has been accumulated are different moments of, as we said yesterday, different moments of kusala and akusala, different moments of ignorance, attachment, disturbance, different moments of kindness, different moments of generosity, different moments of thinking with wrong understanding, each one accumulated, not in anyone's control at all. Can you guess what your mother is thinking now?
No.
No. So it all depends on the tendency to condition the thinking right at this very moment.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Understand now. Thank you.
Bouncing off of Tin's question, it's also the facts that citta can arise, is only one citta can arises in each moment, but it continuously arises in the same rupa that is me. Maybe that's another reason why I think that I accumulate stuff and I'm doing this and that because of the same citta that makes up me. Can you elaborate more on that continuous?
Because the chittas arise and fall away in such rapid succession, like we talked about the painful bodily feeling. So many chittas arising and falling away in rapid succession, but because there's no understanding and they're taken for a whole, it seems that there is a lasting painful bodily feeling. It seems that it's light all the time. It seems that there is seeing all the time because of the rapid arising and falling away and the taking of what appears as something, as a group, as a mass. So this is why we have to talk about one reality at a time to understand that actually that citta isn't continuous because it falls away at each moment, but it conditions the next one. So this is why it seems to be continuous. It seems to last, and it seems to be I that is there, that is seeing or hearing.
And I think, as we were saying yesterday, the jittas that arise and that we know take for being dream, they arise in a stream. They're all related to each other by certain conditions, one after the other, unbroken stream, and so on for each individual. And so there's never any crossover between the jittas of one stream and the jittas of another. So in that sense, as Tim said, his accumulations accumulate to him and my accumulations accumulate to me, and that's how it is. But that is separate from the question of whether there is a self or not. The question of whether there's a self or of the idea of the wrong idea of self is different from that. That's because it's correct understanding to appreciate that jittas arise in a stream and are related to each other, and they arise together with the rupas that are conditioned by the same karma, and so on and so forth.
And just briefly on the point that Vincent suggested we chat about, because it came up in passing yesterday, about doorways and bases. So in brief, every citta in life has to arise at a base. We call it a batu. So seeing arises at the eye base. All the other cittas in the eye door process arise at a different base, the hadya watu, the heart base. So only seeing arises at the eye base. All the cittas in the mind door process also arise at the heart base. But the eye base is also the doorway, the dwara, for all the other citas in the eye door process to experience the same visible object. So only eye base is only the base for seeing, but it's the doorway, the means by which the other citas experience the object, because visible object has impinged on that eye base, and the eye base hasn't fallen away. So it is the means, the condition for all those citas to experience the object. So so it is the eye base, is the base and the doorway for seeing, and it's the doorway for the other citas, but not the base, not the battery. Was there anything else in the?
Could you repeat that, please? I want to be clear on that. The eye base seeing is through the eye base, and all the citta and
Seeing through the eye base, right?
Seeing through the eye base.
The visible object has impinged on the eye base, so it is the base or the vatu or the place of arising for the seeing. So it doesn't see through the eye base, but it is conditioned by, if without eye base, without a visible object having impinged on eye base, there cannot be the seeing of the visible object. And that's why we talked about the importance of eye base and why it is an indriya, because it is the great reality that visible object has to have impinged on, and it is the reality that seeing that is necessary for seeing to see the object. So it's the base for seeing, and it's also the doorway, the means for seeing to experience the object, the dwara. So it's, but for the other citas in the process, including the one that arises before seeing, the Panchadwara Vajana citta, and all the citas that follow seeing, it is not the base. They do not arise at eye base. The Panchadwara Vajana citta arises at another base, the Hadiyawatu base, and the other citas do. But without the visible object having impinged on the eye base, there couldn't be the alerting to it. So even though it's not the base, it is the doorway, the means by which there can be to the object, and all the citas in that process advert to it. So that's why the eye base is indriya, because of its very important role in the process for all those citas. And it's also ayatana, the moment of seeing. There's the association of the seeing, the visible object and the eye sense. So it is the alta ayatana at that moment. And in the mind door process, so each citta arises at the hadiyawatu. But what is the doorway? What is the dwara for the mind door process cittas? Do you know?
Manodvara, Ajna, Manodvara. No. Anna?
I'm the first citta in the process, but the I think you do know. I think
Yes. The not the citta, the chalana.
the last bhavanga. The last bhavanga before the Manodwara Vajana, yes, the last bhavanga. And it just means that it's the means for the Manodwara Vajana and the other cittas to rise. If that bhavanga citta hasn't arisen and hasn't fallen away, then Manodwara Vajana citta couldn't arise, that's all.
The confusion was I have to laugh at the ignorance. At least I'm lighthearted about it, but that I was getting location specific, as in eye base, and then the hadaya, the heart base. But it's the hadaya is not location specific. the rupa, which arises in groups of kalapa, arises, stays, and then the falling away moment of it, just as Chitta had the similar moment. So it's not anything location specific. It arises and passes away. The hadaya. I was thinking, what moment in the process of Chitta is it directed to the hadaya base? Because the eye base has done its job of seeing through the eye base visible object. And then Beta and Chasika arise together at the heart. I can't
At a
point.
tiny room located there, it's not important.
Yes, yes.
But it's just in the Kamawatra realm, the sense realm, there has to be a batu, there has to be a base for each chitta, that's all. In the
Mhm.
Rupa Brahma realm, no Rupa is necessary, no Rupa at all. So it just means it is the base, and it has a particular location, but it's of no significance at all. But just the point of distinguishing between batu and dwara, that was all. And is it pariyati? Is there any understanding at this moment? This is the point. But it can just help to clarify a little bit about what is the difference between base and doorway. We've
And
just-
Nama and Rupa, thank you, Sarah, makes it a little more clearer from that, the context you put it in, thank you.
We've just got a few moments left, so let's see if Ajahn has.
And about the time,
Right.
shall we talk a little bit more about the group? What does it mean? Group.
From the sutta, when it's mentioned by group, it's mentioned about intense.
But what is the meaning of the word group?
The meaning group. More than one, right? Sounds
Okay.
like more than one.
Mhm.
I don't think it means more than one reality at a time. It just means there are many different classifications of realities.
So we can say one group, not one reality or one thing only, but one group,
Yeah.
right? Two groups and more than one group,
Right.
not only one, right?
Right.
So now the reality arises and falls away. It cannot be known just one, right?
No.
Now see many people and table and things, group of Nama and Rupa.
Right.
But when it appears as the it has to be only one at a time.
Yes.
No matter it is group of Nama or group of Rupa, only one, because just only one cannot be known at all, right?
Mhm.
So at any time, even now, or moment when Panya is more clear about whatever is there, it has to be in a group. So many moments
Mhm.
right now. Everything is just right now. The difference is only Panya, right understanding itself.
Right.
How much it is, how strong it is, how great it is,
Yeah.
how keen it is. So now it's not that level of Panya keen enough.
No. No.
So we begin to understand when right understanding develops. It develops to understand what is there. The group of Nama, memory, seeing, feeling, Sankhara, and so on in group. But each one does not appear only one at all. By nimitta. So we leave out the word nimitta as it's known, and what we talk about is nimitta of just one characteristic, right?
Right. Right.
So when we talk about the group right now, uncountable group,
Mhm.
the group here and the group there and over there, see? So when it appears, whatever appears, as just like now, in group, seeing, thinking, this one, that one, and so on, group,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So even at the moment when it appears well,
Mhm.
must be in group.
Yeah.
Even so, very short in group.
Right.
In order to understand the different stages of Vipassana Jnana, Samasana Jnana is not Uttiyapaya Jnana, because even Nama Rupa Parichita Jnana in group, but the moment of understanding, Panya is sharp enough, no doubt about that which arises and experience an object, no Rupa then. When Nama is the object, and when the Rupa is the object, no doubt about the characteristic of one nimitta, whether it is hardness or sound or whatever. But when it gets closer to understand the characteristic of many realities, it seems like at once, like now, but it in group. So understanding and letting go, the clinging to that as someone or something, because understanding the conditions, see, condition to hear, condition to be sound, or a condition, it let go a little more of ignorance and attachment. But it's not Samasana Jnana.
No.
It is Paccaya, to let go, even that gone by conditions, appear and gone by conditions, until the moment when whatever is now appears to right understanding of its changing from moment to moment, which means it arises and falls. But it's not clear enough, because in group, many things at once, we use the word at once, but in truth, many moments and many nimitta. So it appears, the group appears, right? At once, right now, at once now. But Panya is strong enough because it let go the understanding of that which conditions whatever.
We've lost the sound here.
Yes, and for me, maybe you can disconnect and reconnect. I try that.
It was almost time anyway, so maybe
That's why we lost.
Have we got one this afternoon? Well, you wouldn't be.
Right, at midnight? Yes, we
I don't
do.
think that's why it stopped. No, our John was quite willing to go on. I just think there was a technical problem. I don't believe, and just answer to your later question, Sita, I don't think there is one this afternoon, but we can ask Sarah. We can ask Sarah. We can ask Sarah later on, but I don't think there is. However, I'll try and.
I think that's right.
I think what Alberto said, if you want to reconnect again, just cut out, just start again, go right back and do the whole business again, and then you should connect up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you too for your message before about I did have the speaker on.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see you again in less than a minute.
It cannot be Vipassana Jnana. It cannot be even the Nama Rupa Parichita Jnana, Paccaya Parikha Jnana, Samasana Jnana. Stage by stage, even Samasana Jnana is not as clear as Uttiyapaya Jnana. So it cannot condition understanding the danger of this moment, the danger of life, of samsara.
And that's probably why the Visuddhimagga here says to have the knowledge of what is the past and what is not the past, one need to apply himself to the insight called comprehension by group. So that's an important stage to know what is the past, what is not the past.
Because the moment of rising and falling away, no word to say what is past because it's gone, falling away.
It's still talking about now, the present moment, the reality now, which has fallen, gone.
Right.
That's it. It's not talking about, like when we talk about khandhas, any rupa in the past or the future or inside or outside or sat world. It's not talking about that. It's referring to the arising and falling away of reality right now.
Object to Panya has to be now, yes. Except not Buddha.
Is that sound inside or outside? Is that sound?
Outside.
So no matter it's out or in, outside or inside.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be labeled. And also, when it says that one has to apply him or herself to insight into knowledge comprehension of groups, it means that in the development of understanding, this happens next. This is the next level that occurs. It's not a choice of switching from the previous vipassana jnana to this one. There's no doubt a gradual transition, but at some point this becomes the predominant focus of the object of understanding.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, as I said at the beginning, they are just different levels that occur in a particular order as understanding is developed.
So imagine what group is the Samasnayana, because now group of people, before it can be group in a moment.
So what is group in a moment?
Group in the moment, we're talking about ayatana, right? In a moment, all the Dhamma there.
The word again, ayatana and so on.
What about the realities that arise together in a group? Because we're talking about understanding of arising and falling away of realities.
Well, Ajahn was saying, for example, one nimitta could not be understood. It has to be more than one nimitta for theme. That's when Ajahn mentioned about the group means.
Yes, well,
Just like now, group in a moment, a moment.
In a moment.
And it's closer, smaller group.
in
And what is
Ajahns
the
group,
smallest group?
in Ajahns group, they don't all arise at the same moment, because she's talking about, say, visible object, a number of moments of visible object as a group.
And other thing too, because the other reality can be the object of number, vipassana jnana too, not just only one.
Getting closer and closer to one moment, the understanding at one moment. So in the beginning, different visible objects, closer and closer until it is the understanding of realities arising together in a group.
And what appears now cannot be selected. The vipassana jnana exactly the same. What can be the object of vipassana jnana? One characteristic at a time. Is it time?
Yes.
Okay.